Welcome to Running Down the Clock, where we break down all of this week's big news, events, and controversies from the National Football League. Over the next 45 minutes, we will give you basic fan perspective and opinion on the most important stories and moments happening now. So, let's start the clock. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Running Down the Clock. I am Tyler Walzak. I'm here with Poya, and today's episode is brought to you by Kink. Are you big or are you a little? Find out at Kink. All right, Poya, we just got through the division. Sorry,
what
that
was the kink about? Did you got something you want to share, something to get off your chest?
What do you mean? We just spent 20 minutes talking about fucking kinks for no reason at all. And I ran with it. We BetStep didn't sponsor this episode, so I'm throwing it out to Kink. This goes to Kink. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, are we getting tickets to the convention coming up, or is there a convention coming up?
Where would that convention be? Kink?
The convention center.
What? The Kink is going to be able to rent out the convention center? I thought the convention center would have like a standards of like...
I don't know what the kink is. I assume it's just like some show where like companies that sell kink related products and
Jesus
clothing.
Christ. All I typed in was Kink Vancouver, like Kink Vancouver Convention Center. There's no way I'm gonna be able. There's a bunch of nonsense that's come up here. Fetish friendly conferences. No, there's no. I didn't hit images. I'm afraid to hit images. I mean, like pictures of blue waffle and stuff. I don't want that. Okay.
This is the darkest, weirdest episode we've ever tried to do here. What's going on?
Maybe people have tuned in. Maybe we lose everybody in the first 5 minutes, and this time they've stuck around a little bit longer. What about, we don't know. We don't have any facts or anything statistics based on like if people actually listen to us or when they tune out or when they don't tune out. So
I think they would have needed to hear that 20-minute conversation we just had to kind of understand this a little bit more. I think we're a little bit.
I think that 20-minute conversation made me more confused about kink than ever.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I know nothing about it.
All I know is that I think Dak Prescott's a little. I think he's a little.
We're starting with Dak?
We'll start with Dak because that was probably the most entertaining game of the weekend, I think. All of them were pretty disappointing. I mean, the Chiefs-Jaguars game wasn't too bad, actually, which we thought was going to be a blowout. The Cowboys 49ers game was good, but it was very low scoring. Now we're let's just talk about Dak. Let's talk about this offense. Let's talk about that last play of the game.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had the whole thing about Derek Carr versus Dak Prescott.
Right.
Then Dak had the game of his life for, a game that mattered.
5 touchdowns against the Bucks.
And then this game, he didn't have the game of his life. He didn't have an amazing game, but he didn't have a terrible game. But what he did have was he had more turnovers than a rookie quarterback who didn't give the ball up until I think he had one fumble. There was one fumble play, not from the quarterback, but I think that was San Francisco's turnover, no? I think they only turned it over once. Where Dak, he had some inopportune turnovers.
I think he had 2. And yes, there was one that was like brutal, cannot happen in a bad timing spot. But I've seen some guys say, like some analysts say, both male and female, that Brock Purdy outplayed Dak Prescott. I don't know if that statement is true.
I don't think he outplayed him in the sense of, the week before, Dak Prescott outplayed Tom Brady.
Yes.
Brock Purdy just didn't make the slightest mistake. And at this level in the season, a smaller mistake can cost you a lot more, right?
Yeah. I don't think Brock Purdy...
2, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. I don't think Brock Purdy did anything that made them win the game, like the 49ers. Like, the only thing he did was he didn't give up the ball.
He didn't do anything to make them lose the game. That's all.
Yeah. He just managed the game. That's all he had to do. Whereas I think Dak had more plays that helped Dallas, but also more plays that hurt Dallas.
Yeah, they were in the game. Like, it wasn't the 49ers game to lose. It was anybody's game until pretty close to the end there. And now, do you not kind of see a resemblance of the Dak to Kirk Cousins of that last play of the game?
That last play, the last play of the game where Zeke Elliott was center and snapped the ball to Dak. That's
Yeah.
the last play you're talking about?
Yeah.
What the fuck was that?
Again, why? I don't know why they're not going for more.
What do you
But
mean?
you also gave it to a guy and put him in a bad position. Like it didn't.
No, the ball was there must have been some type of like he catches the ball and then he's supposed to like throw it back immediately before even like landing on the ground.
Yeah.
Because why do you have your linemen out wide like that? Unless you're trying to get the ball out there and have lead blockers. But even then, like your linemen as lead blockers are only going to get you 15 yards up the field until your guy is too fast to be held behind them. So it should have just been like all tight ends at that point. Like, and Zeke got blown up after he snapped that ball.
McCarthy stated that's what did he say? What was the words he used? That's a trick play we practice for a situation like this, something along those lines, like a last minute Hail Mary type.
Did it ever work in practice? Is my question.
I don't know. It seems like an odd choice of play. Very risky.
Extremely risky. And I get they had to go 80 yards, and they probably weren't going to get a play that got them 80 yards, but they chose a play that didn't get them even a shot at trying to get 50 yards. No. It was just a weird play. Like, I don't know. And I don't think that play should sum up the game or the season for them. I just think that I honestly think the 49ers are just a better team and that Dallas shouldn't really beat themselves up too bad. But everyone in Dallas is losing their minds. Everybody's losing their minds about Dallas and that they should be better. But come on, the 49ers might be one of the 49ers might be the favorites to like they could be.
Sure, they got as good a shot at the Super Bowl as anybody else out there right now.
Yeah, they have the best offense in the league, arguably.
The thing you got to say to Dallas is they had that defense held that explosive 49ers team. How many touchdowns did they get? Was it what, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns? Two touchdowns.
Field goal. 3 field goals and 1 touchdown. 4 field goals, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, that's it.
1 touchdown. That's so, yeah, I mean, the defense played out of their minds. Dak threw a touchdown. So it's, I mean, I would not blame anybody on either side for the way that this game turned out.
No. Do you think, though, Dak is one of these guys that this is his peak? He doesn't really have that next level.
Yes.
To go.
I think Dak Prescott is Tony Romo. Whereas they can get like 1 or 2 wins in the playoffs, but they're not going any further than that. No. And someone on Sports Illustrated, I think it's Peter King, longtime senior writer for Sports Illustrated. I think he does the Monday morning quarterback segments. He said that he would, if he was starting a franchise right now, he would rather have, or if he had a team next year, he would rather have Brock Purdy than Dak Prescott. What are your thoughts about that statement?
Again, it's so hard to choose, but I get it because, how many games has Brock Purdy played in the NFL now? What is it, 6 games? 7 games?
6 to 8 games, somewhere around there.
We've used the Carson Wentz reference before. He had an 11-game stretch where he played MVP caliber. Mm-hmm. And so far, though, that was the 11 best games of his career.
Yeah.
Is it possible that Brock Purdy goes on a streak for a while and he looks amazing and then it just kind of drops off? Yeah.
1,000%.
But again, you got to give him the credit that what more was he supposed to do in those 7 games? He's done nothing to suggest he won't be a good quarterback in the opportunities he's had. He's done everything that you would expect a great quarterback in the league to do within those games he's played. There's no evidence to the contrary of why he couldn't be a great quarterback in this league. So, yeah, the ceiling with one of them. You don't know the ceiling with the other one. And there's nothing to suggest. There's nothing to suggest his ceiling's very low.
That statement is why I think that it would be correct to have Purdy over Prescott. It's because Prescott's going to win 1 game in the playoff and then not. Like it feels like he's hit his ceiling. We both agree on that. Whereas Purdy, you don't know what that ceiling is. You know that he might just be able to be a boring quarterback that doesn't throw touchdowns, but also doesn't throw interceptions and just get you 2 wins in the playoffs, 3 wins in the playoffs. But that's that statement there where I think that the potential of Purdy getting you further is just a little bit more exciting to look at than the first round elimination with Prescott or the second round elimination with Prescott. That's where I think maybe that's what Peter King was trying to say. If it was Peter King, I think it was, but that's where I could see like that's a justification that actually makes sense.
But those turnovers at this time now, that's when it kills you. For the fact that Brock Purdy is not making turnovers in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That's that is amazing. That is amazing. That's an amazing stat to have as a young guy who, the Mr. Irrelevant thing is, I think that's gone now. Like that's completely silly, right?
He will get he'll be on a team. Yeah, I think he has like 3 or 4 years under his rookie contract, but he'll be on the San Francisco team for 4 years. And then probably if he keeps playing and if he starts next year, like they're saying he will, he'll be around this league for a while.
So what's the move? If he starts next year, you trade Garoppolo, keep
well, Garoppolo's a free agent, I believe. So he can go anywhere.
Right, but I mean you don't attempt to sign him. That's what I'm saying. You let Garoppolo go and you keep Trey Lance on the backup?
Yeah, I think you let at this point, especially if you go to the Super Bowl, even if you lose in the Super Bowl, especially if you go to the Super Bowl, I think that Brock Purdy could start for you next year and you'll be happy with the other players around him. I also think that you have a backup in your mind, like a backup plan, which was your original plan, which was draft Trey Lance to be the starter for this franchise for the next 10 years. That is still there. That can still be in play. So if you have more faith in Brock Purdy, that's fine because your backup plan was your original A plan anyways. Purdy's your C, D plan. Garoppolo was your B plan. Let him go. You're already ready to let him go last year. And then Trey Lance got hurt. But now there's another guy that plays just as like consistent as Garoppolo. So you may as well let Garoppolo go. There's no point having him stick around. He can go to a team and start somewhere. There's 5 teams I can name off the top of my head that Garoppolo could start on next year.
I don't think I could name 5 teams at any moment without stuttering. So
I actually believe that to be true.
Well, there was another boring game, which you and I watched together.
Holy shit, that was such a bad game. New York Giants did not show up to that game. And we did watch it together with our other sponsors that actually, if you're too afraid to go to the kink convention, if you're too shy, if your anxiety levels are too high or you're embarrassed.
Or you just don't know what it all is.
Or you like just like us, you don't know what it is. Get yourself a masseuse.
Now,
get yourself a masseuse. Have a masseuse. Break a masseuse. It's $9. And you'll get enough confidence.
But I also feel that I know what we're talking about once again.
Because if you let me finish the promo I was cutting.
Well, I got to interrupt because that's my move. Pardon my interruption here.
Then finish off the masseuse. Tell everybody what the masseuse is and why it can get you to that kink convention.
The thing is, I don't think anybody knows what we're talking about with this kink convention. Also, I don't think anyone knows what we're talking about the masseuse because I don't think it's called masseuse. I think it's called Mateus. Mateus.
Nah. Nope.
Yeah. No. It's a Portuguese, slightly sparkling rosé wine.
And we drink it all the time.
That's what gets us through these podcasts.
It is what gets us through these podcasts. And we did have a Mateus or a Matus. I'm pretty sure it's a Matus.
Yeah.
Mateus would have like Mateus would be like Mathias would be a Mateus.
No, that's how you spell Mateus. However, it's just how would the Portuguese say it? We need to get a Portuguese person here. We'll settle for a Brazilian.
Yeah. Do we know a Brazilian or a Portuguese person?
No. We got each other.
We just have each other. Yes. That doesn't help anybody.
Anyway, back to the game. That was the highlight of the game. You got a nice little pizza oven there.
A little pizza. We had some pizza and we watched the Matus. And we talked about how shitty this football game was. And it wasn't 38-7. Eagles win. And we knew the Eagles were going to win. I thought that the Giants would cover 8 points. They're up 28-0 at one point. At half. Yeah. And then it was just over from there. And it was just there's nothing. The Giants looked dead. Daniel Jones is a free agent. I feel like he's good enough to have been able to come back. To start for the Giants. I don't know if they have a better option than Daniel Jones at this point. It certainly wasn't really all Daniel Jones' fault in this game,
But
but
he did play differently than the other week. Did you not notice that? The one thing we were praising him for the other week was just his commitment to the run.
Yeah.
When it wasn't there, you didn't really see him doing that the same way this week.
No, he didn't break out.
No. And how often was there just the fastest 3-and-out that you ever saw?
Oh, like we would get the ball, be like, all right, let's hopefully they score here. And then before we could finish the sentence,
try and top up the wine.
Yeah. The Matus
Eagles got the ball again.
Yeah, the Eagles had the ball again. It was a brutal game. And all of them kind of weren't great. Even the Bengals Bills game, like Bengals were all over them from the get-go. Like their defense just snuffed the Bills, and it was 14-0 in the first quarter. And it was just like, okay, this isn't going to get any better.
So I'll touch on the Bills second. But if you had the two choices, I'm not saying like that you risk your team not winning, but I rarely get to watch my team blow out another team where it's not even close. Does that kind of take away from the win for you as a fan? Obviously, the players, they want to win by as big as a margin. But don't you feel more fulfilled when you watch your team win a little bit of a closer, tighter game?
No.
Because, hear me out.
I don't even want to hear you out. I think it's a ridiculous
boring as hell.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not exciting to watch your team almost win a game. It is exciting to know that your team is going to win and move on for a chance to win the ultimate prize, Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, whatever we're talking about. It is not exciting. It is ridiculously heart-wrenching and stressful to watch a close game where it's the team that you love. I hate it. I would much rather see a blowout every single time.
But that's what makes the highs worth it, is the lows.
No.
Remember that Jacksonville game against the Chargers?
Sure, but we didn't care about either of those. Jacksonville fans probably, loved that comeback, but also it wasn't one of those things where it's a close game the entire time. Like at that point, they have nothing to lose, so just go crazy cheering for each touchdown as it comes. They're probably so far behind in their mind that they didn't think they ever could win. So when Jacksonville came back to win the game, it wasn't as stressful as it could have been. It's not as stressful as like a 7-7, 14-14, 21-21 type style game where just everyone keeps going back and forth, because it is stressful to watch your team play and like knowing that everything's on the line. I don't like it.
No, but I feel like it's more of a reflection of reality. Life is stressful. The good times are only the good times because they're in comparison to the bad times. That's what they're measured against.
Yeah, life is stressful. I don't like it.
Watching these blowout games where nothing interesting is happening. Like it wasn't an interesting.
Sure, but we're talking about
fantasy. Like it's just not.
Sure, but we're talking about you. Sorry, you brought this up as in watching your team. You're right. If I don't give a shit about either team playing, which was the case for this entire playoffs, I don't care who wins what game. Does not matter to me if Jacksonville or Kansas City wins, unless I have bets placed. But even those bets, I'm not a good bettor, so I don't care if I'm wrong because I'm wrong all the fucking time. But you phrased it as in your team, like your diehard team. That is not fun to watch your diehard team squeak out a win. It's also not fun to watch two teams you don't fucking care about and have a blowout game. Like that's not fun either.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I just still think at the end of the day, after you get through all that gut wrenching, it feels more fulfilling to have that victory where it actually there was some what's the word I'm looking is some adversity to overcome.
Sure. I mean, looking back on the game after, yeah, you're like, wow, we overcame a 20-point deficit and we won the game. Ooh, we're awesome. Go, 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 go. Like, that's so excited. Let's go partying. During the game, when you're actually watching it, that's not fun. No one can convince me otherwise. Nobody can convince me that watching their team, talk like another Maple Leaf fan, no one can convince me watching your team like struggle to get through a game to squeak out a win is not a fun experience.
No. But
especially if your team is known to give up leads like the Leafs are.
From the Bruins' perspective, being down 3-0, that's coming back and winning it.
Sure, but that's a different story because again, you're down so far, like so much that if you come back and win, you come back and win. But a certain fan's mindset says, ah, shit, we lost this game. It's over. It's 4-0. But then they come back and win. It's like, oh my God, we won. That's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference.
Sure. Moving
Don't
on.
just,
So you
don't
mentioned
just
the Bills.
sure. Don't just sure me and then
We're not going
move
to agree.
on.
We got to move on for just the sake of the quality of the programming here. We're
The
not going to agree.
quality of the programming was shut down once we started talking about kink 20 seconds into it.
I tried to shut that down too. I tried to move on from that one.
Sure. So let's move on.
Okay, when you do it, it's cool. Anyway, the Bengals Bills game.
Yes.
You've been on this before of don't poke the bear, don't add fuel to someone's fire, don't motivate somebody when they don't, like you're going up against somebody. You don't give them extra motivation to try and beat you. The Bengals seem to take it personally that they were selling neutral site tickets.
That's right.
For the Chiefs and the Bills.
Yes. So because of that game that happened with Damar Hamlin where it was canceled, the NFL and all the coaches and players, not coaches, but not players, owners, whatever, whoever's in the committee decided that there'd be a neutral site game if it was Bills versus Chiefs. Now they sold at where was the game going to be played? Atlanta. They sold 50,000 tickets to Atlanta for the Chiefs Bills game ahead of time before this game even started. The Bengals Bills game even started. Now they have to do that.
So that was my question.
Yeah.
Is that a planning organizational move where it's if they don't start doing that now, there's going to be a problem come game time when, like when it's time to actually sell tickets? Was that
I don't even think it's an organizational thing. I think the NFL did it. It's
that's
like the Bills.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Like the NFL is an organization that they needed to do that in order to procure the stadium, to get the rights, to make sure that they can actually pay out the stadium owners for the leasing or whatever of the arena and all that. Was that a move for that, or was it just, hey, let's just try it early to see how it goes or whatever? Like was it a little bit negligence, or was that an absolutely necessary move to have the game at a neutral site?
I think they have to have it as I don't know, because you look at any other sport, they won't sell tickets until you win that round.
Exactly. That's the part where it's like, well, why are you doing this so early?
Yeah. That I don't know why they did it early, and the NFL is the one that did it. So they wanted to get ahead of a Chiefs Bills game and have all the tickets sold. And maybe the stadium said, okay, but you have to start selling tickets now. Like, who knows? But ultimately, you just fucked over the Bills because you just gave that extra little bit of motivation to the Bengals.
Well, right, but now why can't the Bengals start selling tickets, like away game tickets to wherever they're going to play their next round?
Well, that's a good point. Well, then you're just,
what I mean? Like
you're just giving Kansas City, maybe they were already, no, I don't know. You're right, because if they were going to sell tickets to the Bills and the Chiefs game already, then they should have been able to sell tickets to the Chiefs and Bengals, or the Jaguars and Bills for that matter.
Now, right? If the Jaguars won, the Bengals got the home game. If the Bengals won and the Jaguars won.
Yeah, the only thing that mattered was the Chiefs Bills. If they had won, because of the way the standings finished with that canceled game. Because, yeah, Jaguars won, it would have been in Buffalo or it would have been in Cincinnati.
So that's my point is, well, you're preparing for one outcome. Why can't
you're not wrong.
Why can't we prepare for the other outcome?
It makes no sense that they were selling Chiefs Bills tickets in Atlanta and not selling Bengals Chiefs tickets in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to prepare for one, then you have to prepare for the other one based on any just logic, right? Like just any common sense. So it is, I don't know. That's a good question, because that's fucked up.
Yeah. No, I've always been good with good questions. I've just never had good answers. That's the story.
Well, most people who just have the questions don't get too far in life. Now, do they? It's the ones who have the answers that really get a step ahead of everybody else. I hate to tell you that. And if you're learning it now, we might be in some trouble for you. Okay, so that was what's up?
We got the fourth game.
The fourth game was the Chiefs Jaguars, which that game was the most exciting game, because it was like, you have a storyline, best player in the league, arguably, goes down with an injury. Chad Henne, who I didn't know was still alive because he's 75 years old, comes in, first drive that he's in, down the field, touchdown. You'd think Mahomes is going to be out for the rest of the game, comes back second half, comes back in the game. It is again, wasn't moving like Mahomes usually moves, but he was playing. And then the Jaguars looked like they were going to go down the field and score. And then Trevor Lawrence throws an interception in the red zone. Actually, no, it was not an interception. I'm sorry, Trevor. He threw the ball to Jamal Agnew, who is not normally a wide receiver. He is listed as a wide receiver, but he's more of a return specialist. He actually played in Detroit with the Detroit Lions. More of a return specialist. Jamal Agnew caught the ball, fumbled it immediately. KC gets the ball back, and that was kind of the play that ended that game, which was probably, I would say, arguably the most exciting game of the weekend. And it's the one that we thought was going to be a blowout, and I think the spread going into the game was like 13.5 points.
So 2 points on that game. The first point, how much do you love the phrase, anything is possible? I like that one.
I don't like it. I don't like puns. I know our listeners, some of them out there read back in London. I know he loves puns, so he'll like that one.
Yeah. The second one is a point you brought up earlier to me off the mics was the Patrick Mahomes injury. Was that intentional?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I feel like that play is a dangerous play. I feel like that play is being taught to defenders to tackle high and fall straight down. And I'm not saying that defenders are trying to hurt star players, but it also has been the case in the past. There has been evidence that players are trying to hurt other players to get them out of the game. That, to me, watching it back, like originally watching the play, I was like, oh crap, it fell on his ankle. And then watching the replay, and again, it's in slow motion, blah, 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 blah. It's easier to dissect things in slow motion. You don't really know. It just makes things look worse. I get that. But it did look like he went right down onto Mahomes' ankle, and it was something that he had planned to do.
See, I don't know enough. I don't know enough about players being taught to tackle in a certain way that if that's a common thing that they're being taught, like, hey, if you do it like this, it increases the likeliness of some sort of ankle or leg or knee injury by this much. So do it. I can say just from watching the footage, it doesn't look to me that there's, because you were pointing out that like he kind of looks at where he's going to fall and he kind of goes for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't really see it like that. However, I don't have that same background knowledge about that tackling method that you're telling me here. And yeah, I could see that. He's the best player in the league. If you can get him out of the game or kind of, you do what you do, I can see players doing that. Now, I don't want to say that player did that because I just don't know enough. It did look innocent enough to me, but I feel like you might have a little more inside knowledge on this one than I do.
I don't. No. I don't have more inside knowledge. All I know is that at one point they're not allowed to hit below the waist anymore on a quarterback. So now guys are just hitting high and falling straight down. It's also, but this is a problem that the NFL has created. It's not a problem that's players are going, oh, we have to do this. The NFL created these problems, and they're continuing to create these problems by making it completely unknown what is a legal way to tackle a quarterback. Because it seems like you're not allowed to tackle the quarterback anymore. So anyway, it looks like, okay, hit him high and fall down. Like you can't bring a quarterback to the ground anymore. You can't hit a quarterback up high. You can't hit a quarterback down low. There's like such a small, it's like a strike zone that you're allowed to hit. And that's not even, the strike zone doesn't even work in baseball anymore. And now they've applied it to quarterbacks in the NFL. So
you can't even throw them down.
Yeah, you can't throw them down. You can't whip them around. You can't do anything.
You can't fall on them.
Yeah. It's insane how are you supposed to tackle a quarterback? I don't know. The NFL has created this problem with hitting quarterbacks, and they're going to have to solve it. I feel like personally, the way to solve it is just tell the guys fucking hit the quarterback any way you want. Just don't be cheap about it. Don't go after his knee. Like just try to hit him. If you land on him, whatever, don't drive him to the ground. But it's just, there's so many things that it just seems like it's a common sense type of play that they call all the time without the referees using common sense.
It seems just from watching, and again, I've never been coached in football, so there's a lot of gaps in my knowledge there. it seems that the way to do it strategically and legally by the NFL standards is you kind of want to come at about the same height as him, maybe your head a little bit below his shoulders, so you're not getting like a head-on-head contact, anything.
I can't.
You want to almost like
Timeout.
wrap.
Timeout. I just had to stop you because I cannot wait until you listen to this. And when you hear the sentence you just said, you are going to laugh and you're going to be like, I'm a fucking idiot. And people are going to laugh because of this timeout. And then they're going to rewind and be like, what did he say? It's like, just the way you said, how do we come at these quarterbacks and then described it doesn't sound good for you. And I just wanted to make sure that we called the timeout so that everybody can go back and listen to how you just phrased that. You made yourself look like a real Chris Collinsworth there. And we're back.
Well, I don't know if I want to continue now.
I don't think you should.
I will. You almost want to wrap them around the arm so they stops them from being able to throw. So they can't throw it away.
Right.
And then you take them down. So you're not going too low. You're not helmet to helmet taking their head. And then you actually grabbing them, kind of wrapping around their arms and kind of their body, going down with them. And then you can roll off so you're not falling on them. It's a complicated procedure.
It's very complicated.
The original way I remember like watching it as a kid was, do you remember Goldberg in the WCW? He had the
How could you forget him? It's like 49-0.
The spear. You just go at waist, spear him, wrap the legs, rip them down, drive your shoulder through the body, and snap him down. Takes him out.
But the driving right now in the NFL, the driving
illegal.
through the body is illegal.
You could get a 14-game suspension for that.
And I think that's why guys are wrapping quarterbacks up high and falling straight down.
Yeah,
is because you can't drive yourself through them. So if you grab them and then just
the quarterback anymore.
Yeah, like if you wrap them around and then just fall to the ground, then you're not going to get a penalty. Whereas if you drive through and land on top of them, that's going to be a penalty.
Now, can we rewind this so I can hear what I said?
No, you're going to have to listen to it after because it is.
So I have to fucking tune in now. I have to tune in.
Now you have to listen. Yeah. Now you have to listen. I can't wait. Because also, like, half of me, now that I've overhyped it, you're just going to be like, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I said. I think you'll hear it. I think everyone will hear it. We'll get our writers, our classic. We think we get like 35 people writing into the podcast now complaining about it. We'll get those same people back. And they will not like that. Or they'll love it, depending on if they're bigs or littles. And that's how that's a callback to the kink stuff at the beginning. That's a callback.
You got to turn on the comments on our social media so people can comment about this stuff.
Are the comments not turned on? I think they are.
I don't know. I've never seen a comment though.
so you don't listen to the podcast. You don't follow our Instagram.
No, I'm saying I've never seen anyone comment.
You have a lack of knowledge of football in general. What are you contributing to us here? You're just someone that I can bounce ideas off of.
No, I'll tell you what I'm contributing. Who brought the Matus or the Mateus? Who brought that?
You brought that. You also started off with the kink stuff earlier too. So,
well, that was a different subject.
Took
that anyway.
Yeah. That's how we got started on it, though. So this is what you do provide. You do provide entertainment, whether you think it or not.
Yeah, I never said that. I'm an entertaining guy.
That's why you're here. That's why we're both here. At least we think so. I don't know if anyone listens. Again, might not have any listeners. Some people use us to fall asleep. Did you know that?
Hey, it's a sleep aid. Whatever
sleep aid for a lot of
market yourself however you can. Customers are customers.
That's true. I wouldn't. Hey, if we have 1 million listeners because they think that we're a sleep aid, I'm into that. You know what? Fuck the kink stuff. We're now pillowcases. We're sponsored by pillowcases.
Sure.
Actually, all this stuff kind of goes in together. The kink, the Matus, and the pillowcases.
Oh,
it's like a package deal.
Yeah.
Maybe we're on
selling for kink though.
Well, you sell the Matus first because that's what gets the confidence to get into the kink.
Yeah, and but what do you sell? What's the product you're selling?
An experience. I'm selling an experience.
I almost want to time out that one, but
I'm selling an experience.
Why don't we talk about some of the awards, the potential finalists for the awards?
This is a very good thing. Thank you for getting us back on topic. Which one do you want to go first? You want to go MVP? You want to go offensive player? You want defensive player?
Let's end on the MVP. Let's end on the
MVP. I'm going to ignore the assistant coach of the year, even though it's got You know what? Let's go real quick. Assistant coach of the year. Didn't know it was an award until today. Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator of the Lions. D'Amico Ryans, defensive coordinator of 49ers. Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator of the Eagles. Now, I think all three of them were up for interviews as head coaches this year. Ben Johnson chose to stay with the Lions. D'Amico Ryans, I believe, gets a head coaching job somewhere. Shane Steichen, I think he stays with offensive coordinator for the Eagles for this year. Again, anything you want to add to that? Their assistant coaches.
The only thing I'll say is we do have a little bit of a Lions bias on this podcast. I do like seeing that there's a Lions guy on there within the coaching awards because I get it's tough to put Dan Campbell.
Why?
In coach, hear me out. Just because of the terrible first half of the season.
Sure.
So that adds a blemish on the record. But I also think that terrible first half of the season and then being able to actually turn things around, that is a great sign of a good coach.
100%.
That's something that a good coach can do. So I also thought, hey, you know what? Maybe you should be in the conversation. And if there was maybe one more spot, I think definitely it should go to him. But you can't also just turn your head away from teams that they weren't amazing last year. Now they are really good.
Well, the one person I don't get so it's Brian Daboll for the Giants. 100% absolutely needs to be there. Huge turnaround. Yeah. No problems with him being there. Doug Peterson of the Jaguars, again, they were as bad as the Lions. Number 1 pick last year to the playoffs this year. He should win the award, no doubt.
First season?
Yeah, in his first season. That is 100%. I believe that is right. Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers went to the Super Bowl last year, did they? 2 years ago? Why is he there? Same roster. They just had some quarterback problems, but everyone knew already that the quarterback position is kind of like doesn't really matter there because of
Kyle Shanahan's coaching and how dynamic the players that they're putting together and all these amazing plays that he runs. This is what I'm trying to justify the reasoning behind it. I like Dan Campbell in there just because I think a coaching thing is doing the most with the least.
And that's what they had. Like, think about this. So they were top 3 pick last year, number 2 overall, Aiden Hutchinson. The first game this year was against Philadelphia Eagles. They lost by 3. That is a team that's still in the playoffs. Then they beat the Washington Commanders. Then they lost to the Minnesota Vikings, number 2 seed in the NFC this year. They only lost by 4 points. So they lost to the number 1 seed by 3 points, the number 2 seed by 4 points. Then they lost to the Seattle Seahawks by 3 points, another playoff team. Then they got blown out by the New England Patriots, blah, 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 blah. Then they lost to the Dallas Cowboys, who also made the playoffs this year. Then they lost to the Dolphins, who also made the playoffs this year. Then they won 3 in a row, lost to the Buffalo Bills, won 3 in a row, lost to the Panthers. Yeah. And so look at the losses. Fuck the 1-6 record at the beginning. Look at the teams they played. And they lost just by 3 points. It is bullshit that Kyle Shanahan is on a top 3 for coach of the year. It should easily, even if it's just a vote to be like, hey, great fucking job. You almost got the Lions, the playoffs. Do you think if the Lions made the playoffs that he'd be on there instead of Kyle Shanahan?
I think so. I think what it is, though, and again, I'm just trying to justify because I don't know football strategy as well as most football fans, that is. People are always enamored by his offensive ingenuity.
Look at the players he has, though.
Yeah. But we've seen teams that have great players and they can't do anything creative with it. What did the Minnesota?
He could literally be standing.
Minnesota Vikings have good players, and all the move is just make sure that Jefferson, it's like the players doing a lot of the work, right? It's not a lot of creative stuff there, is there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So why?
Jefferson, he'll catch it.
But so why is Kyle Shanahan on there? He could be sitting on the sideline with a cigarette in his mouth, being like, I don't know, give it to McCaffrey this time. I don't know, give it to Debo this time. I don't know, Ayuk, throw it up. Who cares? We got so many guys. Give Juszczyk a chance. Let's go. It doesn't matter. So why is he on here? Their offense is just as good as it was last year. And the only reason he's on here right now as a coach of the year candidate is because they had 2 quarterbacks go down. Who cares? Dan Campbell did way more with a team that has less talent than Shanahan. I mean, I'm not way more, but he got more out of a team with less talent than Shanahan has a team that has all the talent. So he technically doesn't need to be there. And I guess I did say that it's the system that is the reason they don't need a quarterback, which does help his case for coach of the year because his system's so good. But they were there last year and they're there the year before, and next year they're gonna be in the playoffs again. So why I just don't know why he should be.
Do you know was he in was he a finalist for the coach of the year any of the last 2 years?
I don't know. That's a good question. But
because,
I mean, if he's coach of the year with a team like that, and the other two are teams that had huge turnarounds, then why is Philly Eagles and Sirianni not on here? You know what I mean? Why is Andy Reid and the Chiefs not on here? They won 12 games. Why are they not on there? Why is the Buffalo Bills head coach, why is he not on here? If that's what they're going by, because I don't know why the 49ers are any different than those other teams. Whereas the Jaguars and Giants had huge turnarounds in wins. Whereas the 49ers had the same right where they're supposed to be. So I feel like Dan Campbell got absolutely screwed over in this.
Sure. It's a valid point.
And you know what? I'm all for it, because if you need to give anyone any more motivation, it's not Detroit Lions. It's not Dan Campbell. It's not that city. You're just giving them more. Give them more. They're going to come harder next year. They're going to come faster next year. They're going to come stronger next year. And this is just going to help with that, because I guarantee you that the guys on that team that busted their ass off for him all year are going to be pissed that he's not on this list. And now I'm fired up. Let's move on.
You're fired up. So should we go to the defensive rookie of the year then, if you're fired up?
Yeah, because there's a Lions player in there, but I'm going to go the opposite way with this. So right now it's Sauce Gardner from the Jets, Aiden Hutchinson from my Detroit Lions, Tariq Woolen from the Seahawks. And as much as Aiden Hutchinson had a great year this year, Sauce Gardner's he could be just on the defensive player of the year list.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of like, great job, Aiden, great job, Tariq. But Sauce Gardner, this is his award. Yeah. He could just be defensive player of the year. Doesn't need to be defensive rookie of the year. He was outstanding this year.
I agree. He did have a great season. And I think he was kind of, Aiden Hutchinson took a little bit longer to kind of get into the groove of things, where he was, making a bigger impact. He was a good player from the get-go. I think he had a great first game, didn't he?
Yep.
But Woolen, I don't think Woolen really picked it up until maybe a few games into the season as well.
He's on the list, but it's like,
I think that's 1, 2, 3 in that order that they'd get it.
100%. And I think the difference between Woolen and the other two guys is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. But Woolen had a great year, and he's going to be a great addition to the Seahawks for the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully, for them. But I do think Sauce Gardner, plus his name is Sauce, and that swagger he has wearing the cheese hat in Green Bay, I'm all for him having it. All for him.
Despite Green Bay. Anything despite Green Bay. That's where you got your vote.
Anything despite Green Bay. Offensive rookie of the year, Brock Purdy, QB, 49ers. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, New York Jets. Kenneth Walker, running back, Seahawks. To me, this is also an easy one. What do you think? What's your answer for this?
I like Kenneth Walker.
You're kind of biased.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. I think this is Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson has this locked in.
Now, for the Jets, have you seen that little rumor about Aaron Rodgers potentially going to the Jets?
Yes.
You think there's much validity to that?
I do, because he's very close with all of the people in that organization. Apparently, he has called Zach Wilson before and kind of like mentored him about some stuff before the season started. So I know he's close with that kid. And I feel like if Zach Wilson's going to be comfortable with anyone starting ahead of him, it could be Aaron Rodgers. I don't think the Green Bay Packers are going to trade Aaron Rodgers to a team in the same conference, the NFC. So the Jets makes a ton of sense.
He could even keep his number.
He can even keep his number.
Yeah.
Joe Namath said he'd give it up to him, right?
So,
who cares?
What do they have to give up? Numbers.
They probably have to give up a couple first round picks, which I don't know if it's worth it for a team that wants to rebuild. for 2 years with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. But I think Garrett Wilson gets this. Now, Brock Purdy might be more valuable offensive rookie of the year. Kenneth Walker might be a more valuable offensive rookie of the year. But as far as just offensive stats and production goes, Garrett Wilson takes this award.
See, yeah, if you could expand it through the playoffs, Brock Purdy 100%, without a shadow of doubt.
Yes, if you can expand it to the playoffs, maybe.
But you can't.
You can't.
And so just with that, he's just too late in the season he came in.
Yeah.
But I think it's remarkable he got his name in there.
Oh, yeah. I was actually shocked to see his name on there. Shocked.
Yeah.
But, I mean, considering what he's doing, they might just do it just to, like, give him a tap on the back. Yeah. Which they could have done for Dan Campbell, but they didn't. So fuck them. So we actually talked about this, I think, week 5 or week 6. Comeback player of the year. We asked, is Geno Smith even eligible to be a comeback player of the year, considering he's not coming back from anything?
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley comes back from knee injury last year.
But to add to that, we did find the answer. It's not coming back. It's somebody who overcame some form of adversity.
Yes. So Geno Smith should win this award because he just overcame 10 years of adversity, right?
Yeah. It's a very tough one because he was always around.
That's what I mean.
He was just waiting for his moment. Injuries, you could say, like, they can just end your career right there. He was healthy. He was eligible. So it's a very, like, different issue. Everyone's adversity is very different. It's hard to measure your pain versus my pain. Like, who had a worse situation, right? That's a very tough one to kind of measure. It's almost like discounting somebody else's hardship.
Well, you're not wrong. Like, because Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, who are also up for this award, overcame injuries.
Yeah.
Geno Smith just overcame not playing for 10 years, like not playing as a starter. Like,
yeah. And
he just kept putting in the effort and more effort and more effort every offseason.
I feel like if it was someone like Tyrod or Tyrod Taylor, who his not playing was a lot of just bad luck, could you not make the argument that a lot of Geno Smith's problem was he just wasn't playing to the right caliber? I know sometimes it's the team situation, it's not the right opportunity, but I can't even remember that far back now. Like, was it just you didn't play great and that's why you weren't?
Well, he was just, he wasn't great. And then he was just a backup in places he went. And then he was behind Russell Wilson, who was Russell Wilson in Seattle. So he's not going to get that job until they traded him. And then even at the beginning of the year, he wasn't going to be the starter. It was going to be Drew Lock. He won it in training camp. So again, I don't know what he's coming back from. He's just a better player, most improved player of the year he should get. Comeback player of the year, I think that's more Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I think so too, because also Christian McCaffrey, he's had 2 big injuries over the last, I don't know how many years. But when he comes back to play, he's never dropped off.
Right.
He's always been good.
Yeah.
He just had some major injuries, and it just was time away from the game. That's all.
Yeah.
Barkley diminished a little bit. He had an amazing rookie season and then had some injuries. But then when he'd come back, he was just not even the same for, I think, there was one season where he played like, I don't know, let's say like 11, 12 games or something, got injured again. But he wasn't the same in those games.
Yeah, like even last year.
Last year even. This year, he was looking like his rookie season. Like he's just that same player.
Yeah. Now he wants like $14 million a year or something like that. Something ridiculous. He probably won't get it. People don't pay that much money for running backs anymore.
No, because you get used when you're that good, you get used so much and you get hurt. Yeah. So I can definitely see, as much as I do love the Geno story, I can see it going to Barkley.
The Geno story is great, but it's most improved for him. It's the only flaw for Geno Smith is they don't have a most improved player award.
Yeah.
So comeback player of the year, I just don't think that he fits into this. Sorry about it, but I just don't. Let's do defensive player of the year. Nick Bosa for the 49ers, Chris Johnson, Chiefs, Micah Parsons, Cowboys. Now, all the Cowboys fans are just going to scream that it's going to be Micah Parsons. I think it's Nick Bosa.
I feel like that one will be the least disputed one at all. Micah Parsons was great. No doubt about that. I just think Nick Bosa won this award throughout the entirety of the season.
Yeah. It's when you're the best player on the best defense, and he's the best player on that defense almost by far.
He had amazing.
Werner's great, and he had an amazing year. He was double teamed all the time. It's just like Micah Parsons next year, probably maybe the favorite, but Nick Bosa, I think, wins this award.
Yeah, I think so.
And I just don't. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it. Sorry, Cowboys fans. I know you're gonna be upset about it, but too fucking bad. Offensive player of the year: Jalen Hurts, QB, Philly Eagles; Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, Vikings; Patrick Mahomes, QB, Chiefs. Now, this is an important category because all of the MVPs are also offensive players. So, it's always the age-old question for me is, if you're the MVP, wouldn't you also be the offensive player of the year? Now, that wasn't true last year with Cooper Kupp as offensive player of the year, and I don't even know who was MVP last year.
Aaron Rodgers, no?
Yes, it was Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, because 2 years in a row. So basically, I guess the offensive player of the year, they go by offensive statistics, which sure, but I feel like there's some names missing from this then, like Josh Jacobs.
So I think, like, my take on this is what I think happens. Jefferson gets this one, and a QB gets the MVP.
So let's talk about these together then. Offensive player of the year: Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes are nominations. And the MVP is Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes. So 3 of those names are also in the offensive player category, plus then Burrow and Allen. Now, I agree with you. I think offensive player of the year goes to Justin Jefferson because they're going to be more likely to give the MVP to a quarterback. Yeah, that's what they do.
The thing about Jefferson is he had amazing yards. He didn't get any touchdowns though this year.
Well, here's the thing. Low. We talked about this. I said this every fucking week. Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback.
No.
And Justin Jefferson's the only player that's on this MVP list that is not the quarterback of their team. You want to know why? It's because all fucking Kirk Cousins had to do was throw the ball as high as he could, and Justin Jefferson would find out where it's going to land and go up and grab it. So that is why he's on this list. Now, he better win Offensive Player of the Year award because they're going to give MVP to a quarterback. It's probably going to be Patrick Mahomes because he lost his biggest weapon, and I throw quotes up because his biggest weapon is technically Kels, but they lost Tyreek Hill, so you could argue that.
Much bigger than Tyreek Hill.
Sure, but fast.
Oh, so I thought you meant like size.
No, like weapon, like his biggest weapon.
I know what you meant.
Fuck you then. Why you gotta do that like that? But it's like
why you gotta time out me to make fun of me.
It's only fitting that Justin Jefferson's on this list and it's not Kirk Cousins because Justin Jefferson was that team. That's why that team is no longer in the playoffs, because you need a quarterback to compete in the playoffs of this NFL, minus maybe what Brock Purdy's doing. But Brock Purdy also wasn't doing all the turnovers and stupid shit that Kirk Cousins was doing. And Brock Purdy looks like a hell of a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins does because Kirk Cousins looks like trash because Kirk Cousins is trash. That is why Justin Jefferson's on this MVP list.
It's the MVP one, and it's been talked about many times. I'm not the first person to bring this up by a long shot. But it doesn't work the same way in football as it does in a lot of other sports.
Right.
Just because the players' roles are so different. Like QB is such an important position because everything goes through them, right?
Everything.
If your QB can't make a throw, your receivers can't do well.
Which is why Justin Jefferson's on this list.
And I think he has to take one of them. If you don't want to give him the MVP, you got to give him the offensive player.
Has to.
He is the reason. You got to take home one of those 2 awards.
He's the reason they won that many games. He's the reason the Vikings won that many games. Yeah. It sure as shit wasn't Kirk Cousins.
Well, he was smart enough to throw it in his direction.
I don't even think that he knew he was throwing it in his direction. I think he was just throwing it. What side of the field is Jefferson on? Okay, all I have to do is throw it.
That's his direction. That's his direction.
He's a 50-50 shot at that point. If you're just going left or right, it's a 50-50 shot. Okay, so if we have Jefferson as Offensive Player of the Year, who do you have as MVP?
That's such a tough one. That is a really tough one. Personally, I think I take Josh Allen out of it. Not because I don't like him. I think he's just a little bit sloppier than the rest of the guys, and I think that showed in that playoff game. Not that has anything to do with this award because it's a regular season award.
Right.
but he seems like he makes more bigger mistakes than the other guys. I really like Jalen Hurts because I think he was doing great from game 1 through week 18.
Okay.
He didn't really stumble.
Okay.
Joe Burrow didn't come out hot. He had a great season if you look at it cumulatively, but he wasn't the guy the entire time, right? Like Bengals didn't come out hot. They only got hot at the second half of the season and just kind of took over then.
Right.
Again, if you can adjust this all through the playoffs, I think a lot of this changes. But personally, I like either Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. A lot of people I know they're not going to like Hurts because the argument of they played a lot worse teams than a lot of the other teams. Their strength of schedule wasn't as bad, wasn't as good.
Right. I think you're right. I think it comes down to Mahomes and Hurts. Joe Burrow will win an MVP one day. He will win at least one. Josh Allen, probably, you know what? The Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, all in that conference are going to be, they're going to battle for the next 10 years, and it's going to be very exciting. I think Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes take, like, maybe they go alternating MVPs for like the next 5 or 6 years, and maybe Josh Allen grabs one of those somewhere. But this year specifically, and I'll go back to the Coach of the Year award, the Eagles were trash last year. Absolute trash. They went out, they got a wide receiver for Jalen Hurts. If you're not going to nominate that coach as a Coach of the Year with your team being one of the most improved teams, then it's something, it's somebody. And what better reason to say it's Jalen Hurts? Because his game is completely changed this year. He has been dominant. He's been exciting. He's been everything you could want as a MVP for your team. And we saw in the last 2 out of the 3 games that with Gardner Minshew in there, it wasn't the same team. It's Jalen Hurts is riding that team. You could argue, even though this is a dumb argument and I don't agree with it, but you could say
possible. Anything's possible.
Chad Henne went in there and fucking threw a touchdown on his first drive with this team. So there's a point against Patrick Mahomes. But Minshew in there, the Eagles fucking sucked. So I think this year that this award should go to Jalen Hurts. Do I think he will win it? No. I bet you it'll be Patrick Mahomes. But I feel Jalen Hurts is this year's most valuable player.
With that point, I do agree. I don't think he will win it, but I think he definitely does deserve it. Another point, just to add to that, who was he backing up Jalen Hurts before last year?
Jalen Hurts. Oh, when
was
he
it
was
Nick
Foles? He was the backup to Nick Foles.
Yeah, that was an abysmal season. Neither one of them was getting anything done. And do you remember when Jalen Hurts started coming in for some games? People were saying this guy's not the guy. This guy's not the guy. They were
like, he's a running back. He's a running back. He can't play quarterback. He can't play quarterback.
Yeah, there was a lot of people saying he's not the guy. Let's, why are we even putting time into Hurts here? He's not going to be the guy. And I disagreed the whole time. I was like, you got to give a guy a chance first.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially you put a guy into a player who has limited to no experience in a situation that's not going well, and you're expecting him to just succeed immediately. It's absurd. You got to let the guy get into a rhythm, understand the plays, understand how to be a pro, just play at that level for a bit. And he showed right away, like, give me a chance and I can show you I can do it. And I liked him from the get-go just because how he carried himself and everything about him. But I think that shows why he is an MVP caliber player.
I agree. And now we'll see what happens. I don't know when they announce these awards. I think it's next year when the February 9th. Winners will be announced at the NFL Honors Ceremony on February 9th.
Yeah.
So
it's right before the Super Bowl, isn't it?
Right before the Super Bowl, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll find out on February 9th. Now, let's talk about the games coming up this weekend. We got 2 of them. We got 12 p.m. Sunday. Eagles in Philadelphia versus San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles are favorites to win by 2.5 points. I didn't get that off bet stamp. That was my own findings. Who you got in this game? 2.5 points. Eagles favorites in Philly.
I'll say this.
Philly fans are ruthless.
I haven't been this excited for a weekend of games in a while. Like these are both to me like gonna be. I think they're both gonna be amazing games.
I think so too.
I don't see any letdowns here. It's a real tough one. I don't think Philly has been adequately tested to show who they really are. Not to say that they're not going to be good. I just don't think we've seen them have to be their best.
Yeah.
In this kind of like a game that matters. I don't think they played a game that matters other than last week. All season.
Yeah.
They haven't played a game that matters all season. And I think I'm excited to see what they can actually do because I think they are a good team. I don't think they're a joke.
I think
Perhaps they're not as good as their record shows, but they're still not, they're a good team. The 49ers have shown us who they are. We know they're amazing.
Now there's one person that you can use to argue this point, but a rookie quarterback can only get you so far. And I think this is a game that Brock Purdy just can't win. It's in Philadelphia. You know those fans are going to be ruthless.
Yeah.
You know that the Phillies defense is amazing. Their offensive line is amazing. Even though they look a little banged up, they took it to the New York Giants last week. Now, I think the Philadelphia offense is better than the San Francisco defense, which is the two best. You could argue the two best in the NFC. And then you could argue that San Francisco is the best defense in the league. I just think that Brock Purdy struggles in this one. You have to throw touchdowns. He didn't throw any touchdowns last week. You have to throw touchdowns to win the Super Bowl. And if he can't do that, then this Eagles team is going to win. And I just hope it's a close game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're going to blow them out. I just hope that it's not a blowout.
I think you're right. I think the Eagles, I'm going to back the Eagles right now. But this is, I could go so many different ways on this. Here's the other thing. This is such a long shot. It shouldn't even be put into words because it's so ridiculous to say. But Brock Purdy, if he can win this and get to the Super Bowl, that's on pace for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because Tom Brady started the same way.
That's
came
the
in
one
with an injured player.
That's the one person you have to argue in your
favor
favor for.
And,
only one.
To be the next Tom Brady is such a long shot for anybody. You can't, that's what he did is with 7 Super Bowls like that. And it just his playoff statistics and records is beyond anybody else.
Insane. It's insane.
It's not, nobody else is comparable in the same conversation. But to do that, you got to be on pace with that. And Brock Purdy's got the shot right now.
He does,
he doesn't seem like he gets phased that much. I don't know if he'll get in his own head and just start imploding.
Well, worst case scenario for him,
as you said, he might just not be able to do enough.
Worst case scenario for him is Eagles get up 2 touchdowns early, and then they have to start throwing the ball a little bit deeper than those 7-yard routes that they like, or those passes to the running backs that they have. It's just if they get down big, Brock Purdy won't be able to use his arm to get them back in the game. So they have to hold steady, and that's their best chance of winning this game. But I still think in a close one, I still think the Eagles win this game. And I think it's a great game too. I think it's a game that'll be talked about for a while.
Yeah.
Now, the 3:30 p.m. game. It's a rivalry. This is the 4th game in what seems to be the start of the next big rivalry. Chiefs in Kansas City versus Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are favorites to win by 1 point. Joe Burrow has beat the Chiefs every single time. All 3 games, he has beat the Chiefs. That's hard to beat a team 3 times. Can you beat them 4 times on their own turf or grass, whatever it is they have there in Kansas City? Joe Burrow seems to be Tom Brady right now.
Last week, this is our only, we are a one-sided dimension of analyzing the Chiefs games. How many TDs did number 87 have for the Chiefs?
Last week?
Yeah.
2?
He had 2 TDs.
Yeah.
Anytime you're letting Kelsey do well, they win. They just I don't have the stats in front of me. I'm not a statistician by any means, but I'm saying I'm promising you, there's a direct correlation between Kelsey having a good game and the Chiefs winning.
Yes.
The last time Cincinnati and the Chiefs played, Kelsey maybe had his worst game of the season.
Yep.
Perhaps.
They shut him down.
That's the secret. That's the secret. Just triple team him, leave everybody else open. Make everybody else have to step their game up.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you have to do. We've been saying that anytime we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs team, like any game they've been in, the key is just stop Travis Kelce from getting the ball, and you have a chance of winning that game.
100%. And I think the Bengals are the one team that get that. Just make somebody else have to step up. Make somebody else have to make the big plays.
Yeah. And
we're not going to let you do it. Somebody else does it. I don't care.
Yeah. It always seems like there's these storylines where one team just can't seem to beat the other team. They just can't get it done. 3 games in a row, I don't think is enough. So I think the Bengals win this one. And then next season, it's like, this is the team that the Chiefs just can't seem to beat. Just the team the Chiefs can't seem to beat. And I think then that story becomes something that's a little more like elevated to the point where like they finally did it. They finally did it. Because 3 isn't enough, but 4 could do that. Plus, I do have the Bengals in my playoff bracket to win the Super Bowl. So I feel like I very much will be rooting for the Bengals in this game.
I see too. I'm on the Bengals bandwagon fully. As we said before, last year, I just wanted to see Stafford win. But other than that, I didn't care about the LA Rams.
Yeah, Bengals winning would be a great story for football. Joe Burrow seems to be not only likable, but very, very good. Top 3 quarterback in the league. And Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, like all those guys. The defense is great.
Nixon?
Yeah. I love them
all. As good of a running back as you can ask for.
Exactly, yeah. And they control the game with the running back. And then Samaje Perine backing him up, who's getting a ton of plays now. It's just that team just seems like a destiny team. If you have to say that about any of these 4 teams, the Bengals just seem like that destiny team right now.
Yeah. They have that motivation of being there last year.
Yes.
Being really close.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get blown out. They were in that game.
Yeah. Those are great Super Bowl last year. We can only hope this year's Super Bowl is going to be as good as last year's. And I think Bengals versus Eagles will give us that. Yeah. I hope so. Anything else you want to say to everyone listening?
No, there's 2 guys that also have a podcast. I think it's a little bit more popular than ours. It's the Kelsey brothers.
Yeah, they could potentially be facing each other. Yeah, the Chiefs versus Eagles in the Super Bowl. That would do it.
Who do you root for in that situation?
The Chiefs versus Eagles?
Yeah. Which brother? I don't even care the team. Which
angry about both of them. Probably not Travis Kelce. Probably Jason Kelce. Yeah. Just because I feel like he's the older brother that has a little more like, yeah, sure, Travis scores touchdowns all the time, but I'm cooler than he is.
Well, he's also one of those guys of like his position when he does well, it doesn't really get any notoriety. Like it's not a highlight. It's just that's great. He does a lot of stuff that doesn't like when he's doing well, it doesn't really show. It's if he makes a mistake, then it's a massive blunder. Like it looks terrible and stuff, right? But he's a solid player, right? Like,
he's great.
Yeah.
Great,
but it's not a highlight reel position.
All pro player. No, it's not. But I hope we don't have to talk about that because I very much would like the Bengals to win so that I can win.
I think I'm on the Bengals.
Let's hope so. I'm going to knock on wood right now. That's that knocking sound. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week after these games are over. Next week, we will not preview the Super Bowl. We will talk about the previous week's games that are upcoming this weekend, if that makes any sense to you. And then we'll just talk a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of bullshit. Maybe we'll go to a kink convention and do more research. We don't know.
I was going to say, we were going to talk more nonsense next week than this week.
Yeah, we have to. Because the week after that, it's going to be our Super Bowl preview special.
Nonsensical. Okay.
So next week is going to be a bunch of nonsense.
I'm in.
So get whatever topic you have ready. We're going to need it next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next week. Enjoy the weekend. Running Down the Clock is brought to you by the Ordinary Podcast Network and is every Thursday running until the week after the Super Bowl. We hope you enjoyed enough to subscribe and tune in again next week.